everybody, welcome to patch 13.19, my favorite patch because it has Morgana's thighs on it. But let's talk about this. This is the Worlds patch. This is the patch for Worlds, the biggest tournament of leagues every year. But this is it, guys. With this patch, Riot is balancing the game for Worlds. So every change here will be live at Worlds, barring some emergency hotfixes, which rarely, if ever, happen. This patch will be the one that you all see at Worlds and all that stuff. So what is happening in this patch? We have nerfs to Azir, Briar, LeBlanc, Rek'Sai, Renekton, and Zeri. We have buffs to Galio, Gangplank, Jhin, Lissandra, Nunu, Pyke, Syndra, and Twitch. If any of these changes look stupid or if any of these changes look wrong, it's because Riot as a company is looking at these champions and they don't really want to balance some of them. They want some of them to be deliberately overpowered because they want them at Worlds. That's right. Some of these champions need to be live at Worlds. So what's going on in this patch? Let's look it through. Up first, we have my good buddy, my good friend, my eternally overpowered Azir. Riot is nerfing Azir. Why are they nerfing Azir? Because the thing is, Azir is always overpowered. Can we just be blunt on that one? I'm just going to talk about this candidly here, without lying, because I would never lie to you, my fans, my favorite people, everyone in chat, you're amazing. Oh, and I want to remind everybody once again, as I do every video, basically, if you want to use this video as a podcast, if you want to listen along, then you are perfectly capable of doing that. You do not need to watch this video. You can be on your phone. You can put me on your second monitor. You can just listen to the sounds of my voice. That is perfectly acceptable. I will always do an exaggerated voice. I will always try to make this funny, because we all know that patch notes are funny, because Riot is a funny company. If you want to watch me, of course, you can see the patches and all that yourself. But I just like to remind people that because it literally does increase the view time of videos when I remind people they do not need to sit here and stare at me. I kid you not, it actually does. Consistently, in fact. So you people actually sit here and watch me until you get bored and click away from the video. But if I remind you that you can just put me on and listen to me, then everybody goes, oh, I could do that. And the view time actually does go up, which gives my video more push, which helps me out. You can also like and leave a comment if you're feeling especially thankful of me today. So we have Azir. The problem with Azir is always that he's overpowered. He's always overpowered. He always dominates the game in pro play. Riot, when I talk about Lee Sin, I'll talk about this more, but Riot seems to want to push every champion to a 50% win rate because they, quote, feel bad for the players of those champions who are like on their team, right? Like they said, oh, sure, Lee Sin might be balanced at 48% win rate, but think about his team that needs to play with 48% win rate Lee Sin. They didn't choose to have a lower winning champion on their team, which I think is dumb. And I think Riot is dumb. Basically, Azir is balanced at like 46% win rate. Any higher than that, and we start to run into problems. Those problems are that he dominates pro play. Riot, of course, on this Worlds patch, does not want one champion dominating pro play, because that would generally be bad for the game. As we can see, Azir has reached a 49% win rate with 14th highest pick rate at Masters Plus. This seems to be a little bit of a problem. Azir at 49%, 14th highest pick rate is not exactly breaking the game, but let's just say that he's not doing it any balance favors either. So we are nerfing Azir, because otherwise he would probably be dominant in pro play in mid lane. Once again, I don't tend to watch much pro play. Why do I not tend to watch much pro play? Because, let's be blunt here, pro play tends to have an issue where it is boring. Very boring. And as a top laner, I don't get to see my lane do very much, so I've just tuned out. However, one consistent is that Azir will always be picked. In order to try to push Azir to not be picked, they are nerfing his early game poke. From 14 seconds to 12 seconds on his rank 1 Q. They're okay with Azir's giga late game stomping into the ground, they just don't want him also bullying everyone into the early game. Will this work? Maybe. Cooldown nerfs on rank 1 abilities tend to actually, it does tend to actually impact them pretty hard in the laning phase. Briar is quite overpowered right now, actually just insanely overpowered right now. That's actually true, and it's been true for a while. Briar, even at Masters Plus, I don't know why it's not showing it. We can see she's already up to 47% win rate. At Platinum, Briar's up to 48% win rate. As a new champion who, if I look at her items build, tends to troll build in the large amount of her games, this means that her win rate has a lot of capability of moving upwards. Stridebreaker and Gore Drinker are her most potent and powerful mythics. Black Cleaver is one of her most powerful second rush items, and yet we can see she is only going Black Cleaver 35% of the time. This means that Briar has a lot of win rate to still earn from people learning the champion and from people playing the better items on the champion. As you might imagine, already being at a 47% win rate with a lot more to gain means that Riot assumes as World comes out and as pro players put in the time and learn the champion that she could be quite overtuned. Now, a lot of these are bug fixes. So what I'm going to try to do, I was reading through this on my own time, and I thought to myself, Briar players are going to be very, very scared of these changes, right? Because they're going to see so many changes that are nerfs, and they're going to think, oh, the champion is dead. So rather than maybe, let them buy into that hype, what I decided I would do is literally open a notepad and put the actual nerfs in a notepad so Briar players could see that they're really not being nerfed that hard. Now, with 0.3% less attack speed per level, that means at level 18, we are talking about, what would that be? Minus 3.6% attack speed at level 18. This is not a considerable amount of attack speed at all, in fact, and this is quite low, in fact. This is not anything to worry about, okay? It's just basically they want to reduce Briar's attack speed a little bit, just a tiny little bit into the late game. Okay, Head Rush is getting a change where it's now properly tagged as an attack reset for interactions like Halo Blades. This makes Halo Blades Briar better, which I don't think really impacts much. Blood Frenzy has a new mechanic where you can now see the remaining duration of Frenzy. So allies and enemies alike will be able to see when Briar is in Frenzy and therefore running at her opponents. Blood Frenzy's tooltip now clarifies that casting W does not remove or replace the empowered Blood Frenzy granted by R. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I'm going to go look at Briar's kit probably tomorrow. I was thinking about, doing it, like I had a couple hours to spare, so I was going to go read her tooltips and, see exactly what's going on there. It's one of my favorite books, reading the Riot tooltips. W, Sneak Attack, Healing. This is an actual nerf, so I'll go ahead and put this in the list. Her Sneak Attack Healing is being reduced from 35 to 65 to 36 to 6%. So she is losing 1 to 5% healing granted by her Sneak Attack. Not really that big a deal. Her increased damage against minions and monsters is, I'm going to consider that a nerf. So her jungle speed is being reduced here. We can see that. She's going to heal slightly less, attack speed slightly less, do slightly less increased damage to monsters. We can actually see that right here as well. So she does even more reduced damage to monsters because the damage is being capped on Sneak Attack. There's now a bug, fixed a bug that caused a percent missing health damage to be able to critically strike. I'm assuming none of you built critical Briar. I'm assuming none of you did that, so I don't think this is really going to be that big of a deal. Added a short minimum cooldown after casting Sneak Attack to prevent double casts with high haste builds. So obviously Bruiser builds, which stacked a lot of ability haste, could actually get so much ability haste that they could W Sneak Attack, and Riot obviously didn't want people trolling themselves and their teams to death. Okay. There's a bug fix on her Chilling Scream, fixed a bug that knocked back enemies would sometimes not be stunned after hitting player-created terrain. So if they hit something like a Jarvanult or an Anivia wall, they might not be stunned. Sometimes, it's not very clear. Either way, they're listing that. Briar's ultimate, pinging R, now tells teammates which enemies are in range. Not really a big deal, but okay, might help someone somewhere. Fixed a bug where Briar would become stuck after attacking the wrong targets if certain test target died during the cast time. So, yeah. Basically, all in all, what are the changes to Briar? A slight bit reduced attack speed growth, a slight bit reduced healing, and a slight bit reduced damage to the jungle. Is this going to kill the champion? Probably not. Will she be nerfed again? Yeah, probably. Let's be blunt, a champion that had a literal int button where she inted the game was probably always going to have a low win rate, especially with so many people trying to build her like a squishy assassin and then getting one shot because they pressed their int button. I think that when I played against Briar and when many other people played against Briar, she seemed much better than the community seemed to be using her. And her win rate is showing that as her win rate continues to climb and it continues to climb and it continues to climb. I think that Briar's going to get more nerfs here, especially, again, because you can look at the actual nerfs and they're really not that considerable, okay? Galio, Riot wants Galio at Worlds because he's the funny ultimate pew-pew champion. The cooldown in his ultimate is going from 200 to 160 to 180 to 140, so a 20-second reduced cooldown on his ultimate at every rank. This really doesn't impact the game that much, but might help late game a little bit. To be blunt, like it obviously does help. In my opinion, it obviously does help Galio to get, like, you know, the reduced cooldown in his ultimate. He can use it more often. In the late game, it does affect him a lot because he might not run into a situation. Right now, you can run into a situation where you ult at the start of a fight, and by the next fight, like, you still don't have your ultimate. It's still on cooldown. Because like its cooldown is just so long. Going from 160 to 140 is good. Is it enough to prevent that problem? Probably not. It's a very, very long cooldown. The problem with Galio, and I think Riot has noticed this, he loses priority to basically every champion in the game right now. Meaning he just gets pushed in. Meaning if he does ult to allies, it does tend to have the downside that he will often lose minions under his turret. And against at the low ranks, Galio doesn't scale good enough to be good. At the high ranks, he's always losing minions and losing priority and losing farm and, you know, all that stuff. He's always losing gold to do anything he wants to do, so he's just not very good. Will this fix his problems? I'm gonna be honest, probably not. Will it make him better? For sure. Will some champions or some people, will some players try to pick him? Probably. I mean, a lot of times the pros will see a buff and then just try to pick it anyway. Most of the time they won't, but sometimes they do. Often if there's a small buff to a champion who's nearly good but not actually good, it'll go unnoticed. So like what'll happen is like a champion's like almost good and they get a buff that makes them good, and then like no one notices because it was just like a small buff. Right? So then Riot buffs them again and again and again and again until they're like giga overpowered, and then they get nerfed down harder than where they were originally. We see that a lot with Annie. I think it's happened to Annie like 3 times in pro play, where like no one wants to play Annie because like, oh, she's just Annie, she's stupid, she's not even good. And so she gets like a bunch of small buffs until like her solo queue win rate's like 53%, and then she gets like slapped down harder than where she started because Riot eventually realizes like, wait, what? We're stupid. Well, no, Riot will never realize that they're stupid. I'm sorry, I don't even know why I made that joke. Riot would never realize they're stupid. They'd probably blame someone else for realizing that they made a mistake. It makes sense when you're a Rioter. Okay, now Gangplank. Much like Galio, Gangplank is getting a reduced cooldown in his ultimate. Why? I guess Riot wants Gangplank to be the safe first pick. As we'll see later, they're not okay with Renekton being a safe first pick. They're not okay with top lane ever having a safe first pick because as a company, they hate top lane. They just truly despise the concept of top lane. They look at top laners and they think to themselves, why do those people even exist? God, I hate them. I hate them so much. I wish they would just die. But at any rate... Gangplank, a champion who's, to my knowledge, not really underperforming, I don't think so, is seeing some very, very large buffs to his ultimate. The cooldown is going down from 180 to 140 to 170 to 130, so a 10-second reduced cooldown to his ultimate. And the Death's Daughter slow, that's the upgrade to his ultimate, now slows for 75% rather than 60%. Then the Raise Morale upgrade in his ultimate now gives him 40% movement speed rather than 30%. In other words, Gangplank might end up being a little bit of an issue after this, particularly into the late game, because he will have a lot of movement speed, more ultimates to help him scale up and keep control over the game, and yeah. But when they say he's underperforming, I don't think Riot realizes. Well, they do realize, they just lie. Let's be blunt. I think Riot does realize things, they just like lying. Where is Gangplank? So if we're looking at Plat Plus, Gangplank is the 7th highest pick top laner, the 48% win rate. That's pretty much fine for Gangplank. At Masters Plus, he has a 49.92% win rate with a 15th highest pick rate, which again is absolutely fine for Gangplank. What I call these buffs are win rate increasing buffs. They don't help him on average. Like in your average game, I don't think it really does that much to help him. But what it does do is it increases his win rate. You probably won't notice these buffs, particularly because the movement speed late game, comes in pretty late and is hard to notice. But you won't probably notice these buffs, but they'll increase his win rate and make him win more games. That means that his win rate goes up, meaning he gets closer to being nerfed, which is not... The thing is, I like champions being strong at what they're strong at and not being strong just because like we increase their numbers on random things. To give you an example of this, we could buff Jax by giving him, more damage on his ultimate. Well, then if Jax gets more damage on his ultimate because it now procs faster and does damage on the activation, now we nerf the cooldown on Counter-Strike. Well, now Jax's Counter-Strike is less powerful, but he gets more burst. So overall, Jax's strength and win rate has gone up, but the strength of the champion has gone down, in my opinion. And that's kind of how I see these changes happening, is that if Gangplank does become good with these changes, and they do eventually nerf him, that he's going to keep these changes, which aren't really that interesting of buffs, in my opinion. Jhin's getting buffed to the damage on his ultimate. The amount of damage his ultimate does is going up. I'm not going to say the numbers because they're a stupid 4 joke, like haha 4, we get it, okay? But basically his ultimate is getting more base damage. Let me read this. Last patch, we identified Jhin as an underperforming champion who couldn't find significant success in solo queue or pro play. However, we knew we were buffing Stormrazor that patch, so we elected to wait and see how those changes affected him. We think he's a bit below the bar, so we're providing him with some more power this patch. We're seriously ramping up his ult damage for 2 reasons. First, where possible, every champion should have a reliably powerful ultimate, so even if you're having a bad game, you can rely on a long cooldown window of power to try to get back into the game. Second, Jhin is canonically someone who wants to murder, so it's important that his damage is up to snuff. So I actually disagree with this meme that Jhin is underpowered. It's been a meme that kind of goes around and gets talked about. His win rate's 49.35%. We look at even Platinum Plus, which is like starting to get to the mid ranks. Even at the mid ranks, it's 50.61% at 5th highest pick rate. Does he perform weaker at the high ranks? Yes, I think that's true. But he performs just perfectly fine at the lower and the mid ranks, right? If we look at all ranks, the actual low ranks, he's 50.78%. So Jhin is doing absolutely fine. He's got a good pick rate, a decently average win rate. He doesn't really need to be buffed. The problem is at the high ranks, we have certain giga broken champions like Kai'Sa, like Ezreal, like Zeri, like Ashe, even Vayne right now, who just kind of run him down. There's a lot of champions who can just sheer out DPS Jhin so hard that if you play your opponent well, Jhin never really gets an opportunity to fight back. But even then, he's not doing that bad. He's just a little underperforming. I disagree with these buffs to champions that are clearly being hurt by the meta. The meta is hurting Jhin. It's not that Jhin is underpowered. It's that the meta is hurting Jhin. We're seeing a lot of giga DPS AD carries that Jhin struggles to be able to kill being picked. Champions like Kai'Sa can rush him down. Vayne can rush him down. Ashe just giga out DPSs him and is very overtuned right now. Yeah, just things like that. The champions that you'd think he would be performing against, he can't even perform against because they're just giga overtuned. LeBlanc is being nerfed because Riot realized way too late that they've screwed up the game's balance. Will we see other champions building like AD LeBlanc and just doing this sort of AD top laner ranged build? Maybe. Is LeBlanc being scapegoated for it? Maybe. Are we destroying LeBlanc completely because Riot doesn't want to see it at Worlds? Yes. So what is happening to LeBlanc? Okay. LeBlanc's attack speed ratio is coming down from 0.625 to 0.4. What does that mean? LeBlanc will scale less with attack speed. Her base attack speed is the same, but each bit of attack speed she gets is worth less because Riot is giving her a lower modifier on that attack speed. It's a bit weird, but basically, the way I'm going to describe it is attack speed bad on LeBlanc, not as good as other stats, okay? Her attack speed growth is going up to match that. She will end up with about the same attack speed from her attack speed per level. It's just that her attack speed ratio is coming down to compensate, okay? So I get that. Riot wants you to not be able to build attack speed on LeBlanc at a good rate. Her attack damage growth is going down, and her mana growth is going down from 55 a level to 25. Then her mana regeneration growth is also coming down from 1 to 0.8. So basically, LeBlanc's mana is getting slashed, her mana regen is getting slashed, her attack damage growth is getting slashed, and her attack speed ratio is getting butchered. What are they compensating to keep LeBlanc viable? Her W will now have a 0.05 more AP ratio, and her E will now have a 0.05 more AP ratio. Will that be enough to keep LeBlanc viable? I don't know. I don't know on this one. Boy oh boy. This is a pretty interesting change list they have here. They're effectively massacring AD LeBlanc into the ground past any ability to ever rebuild it. Probably a good thing, but I can't help but feel, as I said in my other video and as I talked about a lot, I can't help but feel that this is sort of like the culmination of a bunch of terrible decisions. In other words, Riot has done so many poor choices over this year and the last that finally Worlds is happening and AD LeBlanc is dominating, and Riot is kind of like in panic mode, and they're kind of like, okay, we need to do all these changes right now. Will another AD top laner, another ranged AD top laners get viable and completely dominate the game? We don't know. We do know that this one was getting very, very popular though, and Riot was seeing fit to do something about it. So, as of right now, AD LeBlanc is kaput. They are just absolutely smashing it. Is it enough? Probably. I'm gonna say probably. I don't want to say like 100% because like the champion was so goddamn overtuned. But I would say this probably kills the AD LeBlanc build. Does it keep AP LeBlanc viable? Maybe. The mana growth per level getting hit that hard is pretty bad, but Distortion and Ethereal Chains getting a higher AP ratio, it does mean that LeBlanc will be able to get easier kills. Lee Sin is getting buffed because Riot wants Lee Sin at Worlds because he does the funny haha play. How is he getting buffed? He's getting buffed rather considerably, but they are trying to offset it with a nerf somewhere. Basically, Lee Sin is getting 2 more base armor, and his early game lifesteal and spell vamp is going up. However, the lifesteal and spell vamp he gets on the rank 5 ability is going slightly down from 27 to 26. Not really a big deal, but you know. Then his Tempest damage is going down. So Tempest is going from 35 to 155 damage to 35 to 135 damage. So effectively he's getting a little bit, well I shouldn't say a little bit, he's getting a bit better of an early game in return for some insignificant late game nerfs. The idea here is that they don't want top lane Lee Sin to come back, so they're nerfing his late game Tempest. But by buffing his armor by 2 and giving him 10% lifesteal and spell vamp at rank 1, we might see the return of Lee Sin top, simply because it will be very, 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 very strong in the laning phase. That's about it. Riot just wants to see Lee Sin at Worlds because he's the funny haha Worlds champion. At this point, I don't really understand what Riot is doing because, like, we've seen so many of the same champions at Worlds at this point. Like, over the years, we've just seen the same champions showing up again and again and again and again. In pro play, we've seen the same champions again and again. There really doesn't seem to be a diversity at Riot. They basically just push. They complain that the pros play the same champions all the time, and they need to over-nerf them to get them to stop playing champions. But the problem is, Riot as a company has shown consistently over the years that if they like a pro play champion, that they will force it to be pro play viable. They will 100% go out of their way to ensure, against everyone's will, that a pro play champion is pro play viable every single time. So the problem is, why would I stop playing Lee Sin if he's a little bit underpowered, knowing that he's just going to be giga buffed to be top tier again very soon? Knowing that, why would anyone stop playing these top tier champions? Why would I stop playing Azir? Why would I stop playing Renekton? Why would I stop playing Lee Sin? Why would I stop playing Kai'Sa? We know for a fact that these champions will be giga buffed to be top tier again in a short period of time. The only way Riot will get real diversity amongst the pro play base is to actually push certain champions to be good and bad. Or I should say, not good. They need to actually push certain champions to be good, and then they need to wait. Because the problem is they don't wait. When they buff a champion, they want to see them now. They want to see them right now. If they were to randomly buff Skarner and they want Skarner to be top tier, what they would need to do is they would over buff the hell out of him because they want to see him next patch now. This doesn't really allow a ground up system. It doesn't allow like the lower ranked teams to play a champion or the higher ranked teams to play a champion, or for people to, you know, kind of gradually shift the meta. They want the meta to be changed right now because they want new champions now to generate interest in pro play right now. And it's just a problem because we can consistently see that pro play players back in the days used to have their niche picks, used to have their favorite champions. But these days we can see there's no real need to do that. Why would I, for example, want to play a Nivea knowing full well that Azir will be top tier forever, whereas a Nivea might be top tier maybe once every other year for a little bit, right? Like, do you get my point here? And I'm going on this huge tangent, this huge rant, because we can see they're literally doing the thing that I say is bad with Lee Sin. All the time throughout a lot of different games, we can see that the meta will shift. Sometimes it's a bottom-up change, but most of the time it's the best players come up with a new strategy or something. Unless Riot is saying that pro players are not good at innovation and will never learn to play different champions, which I don't think is true. We saw with AD LeBlanc that everyone picked up LeBlanc really, really quickly, and boom, suddenly everyone's playing AD LeBlanc, right? But the problem is Riot doesn't push champions to be good. Particularly, they don't push them to be good in a pro play environment unless they're a Riot favorite champion. So let's go to my little list here. Are we going to see a world where, I don't know, Swain bot shows up in pro play? Probably not. Why? Because Swain is never pushed hard enough to actually make him a good champion in bot lane. Definitely not in mid lane either. Sometimes he's good, but then he tends to dominate the lower ranks. But do you get my problem here? The problem is Riot wants to push champions, but they don't want them to be too overpowered at the low ranks. So we can see after Swain, I'm just using Swain as an example here, has a 52.45% win rate at the low ranks. Now they look at this and they say that's bad. We don't want Swain to be overpowered, right? But then we will look at other champions, like, I don't know off the top of my head, Jhin, and we'll see that after the buffs, Jin's win rate might reach 51% in a top 5 pick. 51% in a top 5 pick is much better than 52% in a top 50 pick. Do you understand the difference? Swain is not really being picked that much, and the people that do pick him tend to do better. Win rate doesn't always correlate to pick rate, but it does correlate to pick rate most of the time. Meaning a champion with a lower pick rate tends to have a higher win rate. Because if a champion's win rate particularly shoots into the top 5, we can see that a lot of champions, or I should say a lot of players, flavor of the month pick them and then lower their win rate. This is consistent. As your win rate, as your pick rate drains down, your win rate will come up, meaning that if I'm going to use top lane as an example here, let's use Masters. If Riot was to slightly nerf Aatrox, his pick rate would probably drain down. Maybe he would go down to a 5% pick rate, but his win rate would probably stay the same because a lot of people right now are flavor of the month picking Aatrox, a flavor of the month picking Renekton. Will Renekton's nerf do the same thing? Probably. We saw that Renekton had a 50% win rate despite before the nerfs. Before his buffs, he had a 50% win rate, but he had a win rate down here at like 15 highest pick. Now he's got a 50% win rate with a massively high pick rate. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Okay, so what I'm trying to say with this entire conversation about Lee Sin is that Riot forcing metas also discourages pros from trying to innovate. We will never see pros innovate to any reasonable degree so long as they can stick on their favorite champions and just play them forever. Eventually, Riot will nerf Lee Sin enough. They'll do double or triple nerf to him to force him out of pro play, only to bring him back 3 months later. And that's why it's so hard to get pros to stop playing these champions, because there's no point. Why would I ever give up playing Lee Sin? Anyway. Lissandra's having her root buffed. Right now, her root is 1.1 to 1.5 seconds duration. It's going to be 1.25 to 1.65 seconds duration. So basically what Riot is doing to LeBlanc is LeBlanc will root people for longer. Do you get it? It's not really that big of a deal, okay? I mean, it is a big deal. Basically, and I have noticed this in the past, the problem is Riot nerfed tenacity across the board, basically on every single champion, by nerfing They nerfed Legend Tenacity, obviously. They nerfed, God, why can't I think? Unflinching. So basically everyone has less tenacity, but they continuously buff the duration of CC. The problem here, and I'm noticing this as a long-standing problem, the problem here is that this means that a lot of melee characters struggle to be viable into the later game, because as CC duration continues to go up by ranking up abilities, by ride buffing them, by, you know, stuff like that, CC duration goes up, but tenacity goes down. This means that no matter how fed you can get, let's say as Jax, what's the difference between a really fed Jax stunned for 3 seconds and a really weak Jax stunned for 3 seconds? Well, the fed Jax might have more levels and live for longer, but their damage output is exactly the same. 0. So I guess my problem here with this Lissandra change is that, can we please stop buffing the duration of CC unless we're going to give bruisers actual tenacity? And no, Steric's Gauge having tenacity active on the shield is not actual tenacity. That's fake tenacity, because right after that you just get stunned and die anyway. Because you get stunned, then the shield procs, then you're still stunned, you don't get tenacity on the stun that's already there, then you just continue to get burst. Nunu and Willip is being buffed. The AP ratio on his snowball is going up. This isn't really a big change. They want to, they're including this in the tooltip right here. They're like, but guys, if you hit the entire snowball, it has like a giga AP ratio. I think they're trying to bring back funny one-shot AP Nunu. The problem is, it's not funny one-shot AP Nunu, because... Here's the problem here. He needs to stand next to you for 3 seconds, hit every snowball, then root you. It's kind of hard for AP Nunu to do that without dying. Maybe he could bam, 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 then ult you, and then it hits you with like the ult on the soul, right? But like the problem is, it's really hard to do that. As we've seen with other champions, we're buffing Nunu. He will now have a 215% AP ratio on his entire snowball barrage. Like, oh, amazing, insane, incredible. But then when we compare this to other similar abilities, like, I don't know, Flame Spitter is a 165% AP ratio and does 15% health damage. And Rumble gets to hit you with his taser and his ultimate and his passive, right? And Rumble has actual auto attacks that do damage, unlike Nunu. And we can already see that Rumble struggles to scale into the later game. Not all the time, but often, because as AD champions, as attack speed champions, as kiting champions get more and more damage and ability haste and all that stuff, they can tend to kite you out and or out sustain damage you or out burst you, right? So I'm not saying this is a bad buff. What I'm just saying is that, you know, temper your expectations here, because this isn't going to make like AP Nunu like the one-shot Giga champion, right? What it will probably do is make Demonic Embrace Nunu stronger, particularly in a rush. I'm not really sure, like, other than this, I'm not really sure what this buff is meant to do. The problem is Nunu doesn't scale, and he doesn't scale because his early game is too good. Now, they could nerf his early game snowball, well, his big snowball, like maybe nerf its movement speed or something. They could nerf that and then like buff up his late game, but for now he gets level 3 and he just spam ganks until he either wins or loses the game. And Riot has kind of balanced him on that pretty much deliberately. Okay, so I think Riot might want to see Pyke at Worlds, but the odds of that happening are basically 0%. I don't really understand what they're doing here. I've been looking at this for a bit since I announced the Pyke buffs. Pyke has at Masters Plus a 10th highest pick rate, 50.97% pick rate. At mid ranks Plat Plus, Pyke is 10th highest pick rate, 49.85% pick or win rate. At all ranks, Pyke is 49% win rate, 9th highest pick rate. At no rank is he below the top 10, and his win rate does tend to go up the higher rank you go. So what they're doing is they're giving him 6 more health per level, and they're reducing the cooldown of his W at rank 5. This is mostly going to be a buff to late game Pyke, not really at all affecting his early game. But I guess I just wonder, like, what's the point of this? What are they doing here for Pyke? What are they piking about? I don't know. That's not even a phrase. I'm just piking, right? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. What's going on here, Riot? I think this is one of those random buffs Riot sometimes does where they get bored and they just want a champion to just sort of be really strong in the meta for basically no reason. I guess my concern here is Riot just continuously gets bored all the time and just buffs champions. We're seeing that a lot, where they just kind of get buffed, just sort of, because screw it, right? Like we have Jhin buffs and we have Pyke buffs. I don't really understand what Riot is doing anymore, and I don't get it. Anyway, let's move on. Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai is overpowered. How overpowered? Like really, 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 really overpowered. Rek'Sai, if we go to Masters Plus, has a 54.74% win rate and 10th highest pick rate. She's maintained that win rate basically for half a year now since she got her little rework. She's catastrophically overpowered. That's it. When they pushed her Q cooldown down to 2 seconds, Rek'Sai got way more sustained damage, which means that the problem here is Pyke is very hard to deal with for most champions these days. So what is Riot doing? Well, they made Pyke's passive heal her, which gave her gameplay and more that she could do as a champion other than just unburrow and one-shot people. Riot decided that unburrowing and one-shotting people is the most fun gameplay they've ever seen, literally ever, in all League of Legends history. So they are nerfing the hell out of her healing. The only unique thing, the only fun thing her kit does is being nerfed really, really, really hard. From 15 to 125 healing to 10. From 2 to 12% max health healing to, from 2 to 12% max health healing to 2 to 10%. So her healing has been reduced dramatically. But don't worry. Do not worry. Riot is compensating for that by nerfing her early game Q damage a little bit, nerfing the movement speed in her burrow, and then buffing her unburrow damage. So Rek'Sai will deal more damage, but heal and move less, which is obviously a good balance, because when you think about it, right, a lot of people were complaining that Pyke wasn't one-shotting people, and in fact was too good at sustaining and performing complicated plays. Rek'Sai was too complicated of a champion. She was too interesting, right? Like her kit was too amazing. So making her even more of a funny one-shot champion again is a good call. Good call here from Mr. Riot Video Games, most intelligent game designers ever, who definitely know that good game design. Renekton is being nerfed because Riot hates top laners. Now, how do I know? You might be asking, how do I know that they hate top laners? How could I guess that? How could I know that? Merely by what they're saying here. Well, let's look at this. Renekton has been performing particularly well in high MMR solo queue and pro play. He has very high elite pro play pick rate due to his safety and consistency as a blind pick. So we're targeting his base magic resist to make him more vulnerable to certain matchups like Gwen, Kennen, and Rumble. So they want Renekton to be less safe of a first pick. That is their deliberate, intentional change. They want Renekton to be less safe of a first pick. They looked at top lane and they said to themselves, damn it, top lane is too fun when you have safe first picks. It's only fun when you get counterpicked every single time. I truly do not understand what is wrong mentally with this company. They seem to have problems that I cannot fix. Their problems as a company go beyond human understanding. They have issues. They are dumb. I don't understand it. For anyone who might be wondering, if you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, Hashinshin, is this really so bad? Yes, this is bad. Renekton being more counterpickable makes top lane less fun, because if Renekton is more counterpickable, that means that you have less safety when first picking. That puts the emphasis less on the laners and more on the junglers. When you get counterpicked, and especially when they make it deliberately so that counterpicking you is good, that counterpicking you rewards huge gains, when they do that, the problem is that it means you cannot win your own lane anymore, and you are entirely dependent on the jungler. Now, being entirely dependent on the jungler is a bad decision. Riot in the past has put up polls. They have asked top laners what they want, and their response has been that they want to be less dependent on the jungler. Riot continuously makes top laners more dependent on the jungler because either they're so supremely incompetent that they literally can't grasp the idea that counterpicking makes you dependent on the jungler. They're either too stupid to realize that, or at this point, they're nefarious and potentially just an evil company that just hates top laners. So I guess the question is Riot an evil, nefarious company that actually just hates top laners? The answer might surprise you. The answer at this point might actually be yes, which is weird when you think about it. So Renekton nerfed magic resist to make him more counterpickable in their own words. Syndra is being buffed because Riot loves Syndra at Worlds. Syndra is a very, very funny one-shot champion who's hilarious. She's a very, very funny one-shot champion that no one enjoys and I hate. But for some reason, I guess she's here. She's not queer, but I won't get used to it. I hate Syndra. I hate that she can Q into a Q, then W, then Q a third time because it went on. It started, like, the problem is her Q starts on cooldown at the beginning of her first cast, right? It starts getting back again. So she Qs, then Ws, then Qs, hits one Qs, then ults, and you're already dead. Which is amazing gameplay. I truly admire Riot's tenacity in taking a champion with supremely unfun gameplay and just pushing them so hard for so many years because it is so funny to one-shot people. Twitch is being buffed. I'm sure you guys have seen all those videos where Twitch is like ulting someone and they're literally kiting out his ult like autos. They're like either dodging them or like they're literally circle strafing him while shooting him and he's missing them all, right? Basically Twitch's ultimate is a skill shot, so it actually does need to hit your opponent, and if you're circling around him, he'll miss every ult, which has been funny in the past, but now is being used by a lot of people to just destroy him. It makes him very unfun because there's nothing Twitch can do about it, right? Like, he can't ult better because his ult just shoots its skill shot where the opponent is, right? So he literally can't force his ultimate to hit people, meaning it's really annoying when he ults and then people just dodge it all. Nothing more to say than that. I've always thought it was really annoying how Twitch's ultimate was a skill shot like that. Like, I get it. It's unique, I guess. I guess it's unique, but it certainly isn't fun, right? Like, no one has ever played Twitch, had their ultimate dodged, and thought, like, wow, this is so fun. I'm enjoying this gameplay so much. Like, never in human history has that happened. So, yeah. Zeri is getting her base movement speed reduced. Why? Because Zeri, the carry, is very scary. Please laugh. Please laugh at my joke. Please laugh. Zeri, the carry, is very scary. Please laugh. I have nothing more to say other than this. Zeri's win rate isn't 47%, so she's overpowered. What's her win rate? 49%. Therefore, she's overpowered. Let's be blunt. The problem is, much like Israel, who's been giga overpowered for so long at this point, Ezreal's got a 50% win rate. That champion is so overpowered. He's actually so overpowered, it's crazy. Kai'Sa too. These three champions have just been so dominant in this meta. I literally can't imagine a world where Kai'Sa doesn't just one-shot everyone from across the map, teleporting next to you to do 2 autos which execute you for 9 trillion HP, right? Anyway, what am I even saying about Zeri? I don't know. Riot needs to nerf Zeri, Ezreal, and Kai'Sa. Ezreal needs to lose some E cooldown at his higher ranks so that, like, he can't E into an E into an E into an E as easily. Kai'Sa definitely needs to lose some base damage on, like, her passive. A 15% health execute that turns into like a 30% health execute is insane, especially because it's so spammable, right? Like, Kai'Sa just desperately needs to lose some of those stats, right? And then that brings us to Zeri, who's just too mobile and too... Honestly, I think she's still just too tanky. Like, for a champion with that much mobility, she just lives too easily, and that's kind of a problem. Randuin's Omen is one of the worst items in the entire game. It is so bad, in fact, that it is literally bad to build into crit champions right now. Into 2 crit champions, it is still bad to build. Let me be blunt on this one. I don't think this change does much. Randuin's Omen is currently 83% gold efficient. It is bad. It is really bad. And I know gold efficiency isn't everything, because like it has the damage reduction, it has the crit reduction, it has the slow active. Like gold efficiency isn't everything, right? Like nor has it ever been, right? But the problem is Randuin's Omen crit reduction is actually just so pathetically undertuned right now that I don't think Riot realizes just how undertuned it is. Let me be clear here. Randuin's Omen used to reduce crits by 20% multiplicatively. So if I go to Paint, or if I go to Notepad right here, crits used to be reduced from 200% minus 20% to 160%. This meant that back in the day, Randuin's Omen was a very, 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 very effective item at, well, destroying 80 carries. And I shouldn't say destroying, but at the very least surviving through 80 carries. Additionally, what's the right way to put it? There was much more healing in the game. Just a lot more healing. Things like Conqueror healed more. Gore Drinker healed more back in the day. Everything healed more back in the day, right? Like healing as a concept has been nerfed so hard that it kind of doesn't really do much anymore. Do you get it? So the problem is that back in the day, you used to be able to go Randuin's Omen and you would have a lot of healing, and like that damage multiplication, like the damage multiplication reduction on 80 carries would be like really good and like very powerful. But nowadays the problem is that like it just doesn't do anything. Additionally, with 80 carries getting so many different builds, like, oh, they start, you fight Kai'Sa. Oh, well, you can't do Omen against Kai'Sa. Okay, so they're doing Twitch. Oh, but wait, Twitch decided to swap over into Rageblade build. Okay, so they have, who? Zeri? Oh, but Zeri gets all that magic damage and on-hit stuff, right? Like, so the problem is, Omen, over time, has just become devalued through all the buffs to 80 carries to avoid crit. Back in the day, when you reduced the entirety of 80 carry damage by 20%, it was like very effective to build Omen to shit on 80 carries. But nowadays it reduces crit damage by 25%, right? Which is still not that, it's like good, but the thing is, like you'll build Omen, and even if you're fighting pure crit champions like Jinx, you'll look at it and like, because of her ultimate, because of her on-hit effects, right? Because of her zap, because of all this stuff, like you'll notice it like maybe leniently Omen will have reduced the amount of damage by like 300. I think Riot really needs to look into the math, because in a way, like I start to suspect that the math just isn't right. I don't know a better way to put it, because it just feels like it's not there. So at any rate, with Randuin's Omen, Riot is afraid that a lot of people are going to start doing double crit comps, because 80 carries are kind of overtuned right now. And they're afraid that if 80 carries continue to be overtuned, that worlds might be dominated with double crit comps. This is kind of like, card games do this all the time. If they're ever afraid that like there will be a meta where one strategy is dominant, they'll print a hard counter to that strategy so that it can't be dominant, because everyone could just sideboard in that counter card. This is basically what Riot's doing, is they're kind of putting like a hard counter to 80 carries, at the very least a double 80 carries in the game, by reducing the gold cost of Omen from 3,000 to 2,700. It means a lot of people can like go second or third item Omen into double crit comps and get it out there much quicker. They don't want Omen to be the default tank item, but it won't be. I mean, here's the issue, and I think a lot of people don't really, like, math this out in your head, okay? Math this out in your head. If Omen reduces the amount of crit damage you take by 300, and it reduces the amount of on-hit damage you take by 100, right? That means that Randuin's Omen, in effect, is, oh my god, it gave you 800 health and 60 armor. Well, now wait a second. That's not actually really that good. If we look at some other items like Sunfire, sure, Sunfire doesn't give that many stats, but Sunfire is obviously cheaper. Now, Randuin's will be the same cost as Sunfire, but effectively, then you're trading away, compared to Randuin Omen's damage reduction, you're trading away for Sunfire 300 health, 10 armor for the entire Sunfire passive. Would you do that? Well, it really starts to depend, doesn't it? because if you're a tank, you do need to actually be threatening. You do need to actually kill people. Not dying is great, but being able to wave clear, being able to kill people is better, right? Omen runs into this problem where it doesn't really do anything other than just trying to make you not die, and the not dying effects are really not as good as Riot pretends they are. I've kept track. You guys who've watched me stream, I have kept track of my omens. I have looked at its numbers. I have looked at it per fight. Even late game fights, Omen might reduce maybe leniently 400 damage. It's an item that becomes dead weight if the opponent doesn't go the right build into it. If an opponent, like if I don't have the right champion hit me, like let's say I go Omen, but then oh no, I got hit by Aatrox or Jax, right? Like it doesn't do anything to those champions, right? It only affects the AD carry. So I need to be in a position where the AD carry is focusing me. I need to be in a position where I don't just instantly die if they focus me. And even in that position, it's really not that amazing to begin with. So we're reducing its gold cost by 300 be good? Yes. Will this make it good? Debatably. Will it make it good into double crit comps? That one is probably a yes. So again, what Riot is basically doing is if you're fighting double crit comps, like if you're fighting, I don't know, what are even the crit champions these days? Like, hold on here. So, no crit, no crit. I think Zeri goes crit. Zeri goes crit. So, I think, like, the only time this really does anything, if you're fighting, like a Zeri bot and, like, a Lucian mid, crit Lucian mid, because we even see champions like Draven can start to go, like, Trinity Force, or at the very least, they can go Essence Reaver first and then, like, feel you out. So, like, what a lot of these champions can do is if, you know, basically they can swap their builds into non-crit builds and then Omen becomes a dead pick item, right? And I'm just saying, like, Omen does not do as much as Riot thinks it does. I mean, to be blunt, to be clear, I think one thing Riot could really do, make Randuin's Omen not an anti-crit item anymore. This is just my opinion. I think what Randuin's Omen should do is instead of reducing crits by 25%, make it reduce crits and on hits by like 20%. So instead of 25% anti-crit, 20% anti-on-hit, anti-crit, maybe even 15%, I don't know. The point is, I think Omen is way too niche, and it's like, it literally only turns on and works in the hyper-specific situation the opposing team has gone double crit. But, yeah. I don't really know why they're afraid of a good Randuin's Omen. I don't really know why they're afraid of a good anti-on-hit item. But they are. And part of the problem here, definitely, is that so long as they're afraid to make Omen good, it's not going to be good, which then in pro play means that there's no actual counterplay to a double crit comp if they reach late game. Because crit champions will generally outburst and out-sustain damage everyone else. Unless you, like, definitely one-shot the opposing ADC, like with a full one-shot combo, they will generally, crit ADCs do so much burst late game, they can actually just start like outbursting actual mages, right? Like how many times have you seen it that like a LeBlanc goes for a combo on an ADC, like a Jinx or something, and Jinx just shoots rocket, and LeBlanc is dead, and you're just, you know, you're watching this like, oh my god. Anyway, Seeker's Arm Guard is getting buffed. I think they're just trying to ensure that mages mid lane stay good. The problem here is we're nerfing Renekton's magic resist. We're trying to make him more counterpickable by mages. Then we're giving mages a stronger Seeker's Arm Guard. What we might just be seeing here at Worlds is a return to I pick Renekton, you pick a mage. Which isn't really that fun of a meta. Not really. It's actually quite a lame meta that a lot of people don't really enjoy. So I'm just a bit worried here that buffing Seeker's Arm Guard and nerfing Renekton will have a double whammy combo. Then we're going to have Seeker's Rush Rumble, straight face tanking Renekton and winning. So, which by the way, Rumble can basically already do. Static Shiv. Okay, Static Shiv is being nerfed because Riot has realized that chain clearing minion waves has made the game significantly less interesting for a lot of people. This one's true. Basically, if you can chain clear minion waves, it means that your opponent can't really react to you. Because I went over this in a video I did earlier. Basically, if you only need to auto attack the minion wave twice to clear the casters, you hit it once as it's coming in, you back off, then you hit it a second time, and unless your opponent can just one-shot you from your side of the map, it's very, very hard to stop you from clearing the minions. This basically reduces and removes all the counterplay to AD carries, as well as making the game extraordinarily safe. When you make the lane extraordinarily safe, it just is less fun for everyone. Watching an AD carry clear a minion wave because you can't really all-in them because they're sitting under turret the majority of the time isn't fun. Split pushers being unable to split push past an AD carry isn't fun. LeBlanc and other champions rushing static Shiv and chain killing the minion wave isn't fun. To be blunt, I don't know what the purpose of making static Shiv so broken was, or even adding it back into the game. But RIOT is now going back, and definitely for Worlds, because you have to remember for Worlds, they want the game to be more actiony. They want it to be more active and killing and blah, 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 right? So what they're definitely trying to do is to push it so static Shiv can't be used to just drag out the game anymore, which is a good change. It sucks that it took till Worlds for Freak and RIOT to finally admit that static Shiv makes the game less interesting, but it is good that they have at least finally admitted it. Okay. Bunch of changes here. Wow, guys. You can now get rid of your ranked restriction for getting chat muted by playing 5 games of non-ranked. Wow. Yeah. I don't know. It's just such a bad idea. I'm not even going to go into it. Bug fixes. There's a lot here, probably because it's a world patch and they went into overdrive, but let's see if any mattered. That one's Malzar, doesn't matter. Fixed a bug that caused Ivern's E trigger seed to not apply the second shield if he had Moonstone. That one is actually fairly substantial. Huh. Fixed a bug that caused Ornn's passive Living Forge to not increase his bonus stats by 4%. When upgrading additional mythic items into masterwork items. Wait, what? Ornn wasn't getting his additional 4% stats? Oh, that would explain his 48% win rate. Okay, let me explain this for some of you guys who don't realize how absolutely moronic this is that RIOT didn't hotfix this. This should have been hotfixed day 1. If he was Yasuo, it would have been hotfixed 7 times, and he would have been buffed just to be sure. Let me explain this. Ornn gets bonus armor and magic resist by default. He gets 10% bonus armor and 10% bonus... Sorry, 10% bonus armor and magic resist and health. Do you get it? Okay. Then it's increased by 4% for each item he upgrades. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, right? So it starts at 10% at the beginning of the game. Late in the game, he gets 30% bonus armor, bonus magic resist, and bonus health. Do you get it? Does everyone get it? Okay. Apparently, and I did hear about this, but I assumed this had been fixed like a month ago. Apparently, he was not getting his bonus 4% stats. I think if I was an Ornn player, I would be having a goddamn temper tantrum right now. I would literally be throwing shit at my walls and screaming. I would be waking up my neighbors, okay? I would be making daily posts on Reddit, on League of Memes, the official League of Legends subreddit, because League of Legends subreddit is basically just RIOT's advertising program at this point. I mean, oh my god, I literally cannot believe that this has been in the game for so long and Ornn players have just been like, eh. Like, oh my god, that is so bad. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I gotta check this. How long is, we can actually check. We can actually check how long this has been in the game by comparing his win rates. Was this in the game last patch? Yes, 48%. Was this in the game 2 patches ago? Nope, 49%. So it has literally been bugged for a month. For an entire month, this has been bugged. Can you imagine can you imagine Yasuo being down 2% win rate because of a bug where like his passive just never comes back and only gets 1 shield a game or some shit like that? Can you imagine that? No, RIOT would have they would have hotfixed, buffed it. They would have fixed him 7 times and then they would have buffed him just to be sure. I swear. That is really bad, RIOT. That is embarrassingly terrible. Okay. Briar, lots of Briar bugs. I don't really know much about Briar, so dude, that's all just Briar stuff. Fixed a bug that had caused First Strike to not grant gold for abilities that had killed the target. Fixed a bug that caused First Strike to not grant gold for damage dealt to enemy shields. Huh. Fixed a bug where First Strike would not grant gold for damage dealt right before the effect ended. I feel like between these three, that's actually a pretty large buff for First Strike. So far we have Ornn actually works again, and now we have First Strike actually works again. Okay. Fixed a bug where self-casting abilities like Lulu's Shield were near one... whatever, it doesn't matter. Fixed a bug that caused Nefuri's packmates to ignore crowd control effects. That's not like a huge nerf, but that is a nerf. Okay, Identity's Rift Herald doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, 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 doesn't matter. Okay. We're on to skins. Okay. So I was just quick reading through all these bugs. None of these mattered. Okay, we're on to skins. Okay. La Illusion Nidalee. Looks cool. I don't know the theme, but it looks cool. What are the themes? What are the themes we're going for here? Is it like Spanish? I guess. So I don't really know the theme. I just know it looks cool, at least. We'll see how it looks in game though. La Illusion Renata Glask. Okay. Looks cool. I feel like her hair, I don't like it, and I can actually explain this. Her hair feels very too vibrant and alive for her being like 70. Like a drug-addicted 70-year-old woman. I feel like her hair is a bit too alive and vibrant. If you look at Renata Glask, obviously we always knew they were gonna anime girl her, right? Like we all knew they were gonna make Renata Glask an anime girl. But like if you look at her base skin, you can see like her hair's got like yellow or sorry, white lines going through it and all that stuff. Like it very much looks like the hair, the not so alive hair of a where's collection here? You can see it very much looks like the not alive hair of a 70-year-old woman that's a drug addict, right? But then like but then you look here and it's just like all super vibrant, no gray streaks, nothing like that, right? So I don't know. I kind of don't like that because it's like if you just looked at it, that looked like Aurelia's hair or Lux's hair or Janna's hair or Seraphine's hair or whatever new female champion's hair. It just looks very generic, right? For a character that had very unique hair because that was, you know, she's supposed to be a 7-year-old drug addict, right? Like she's not supposed to look bad, but she's supposed to look, you know, and so like giving her this lush, vibrant, very alive hair with no gray streak, perfectly styled and groomed, right? It's just like, I don't like it because it doesn't keep to her theme. La Illusion Ziggs. This is Ziggs. If I was a Ziggs player, I feel like I'd be annoyed because, well, I don't know. I mean, he's clearly wearing a mask, but it looks weird. I don't know how to describe it. It looks weird. This one I like because it kind of looks neat and cool. Although, I mean, she is the Panther, so there really shouldn't be two Panthers nearby, right? Because, like, she is the Panther, right? So, okay. That one's fine. I like the look of it. I just don't like how the hair looks like an Aurelia skin. Ziggs is fine, but he kind of looks stupid. I don't know a good way to put it. Kiana. Does that even look like Kiana? Okay, I know people complain. I know I complain all the time that every female character looks the same these days. But, like, this is Kiana. This is not really Kiana. You know how I can tell? Her face curves inwards. Kiana's kind of got a fat face. Kiana's a little bit chubby. I don't know if you guys have realized this. She's like a little bit chubby. I mean, I guess it's hard to do it all the time. And maybe it's just like the fire effects because they're trying to add shading, make her face look way thinner. But like, you know what I mean? Like, Kiana's kind of a chubster. it doesn't really come off the best in her skins because they try to like do a sexual idealization version of her, right? But like, you know what I mean? Like in our other skins, I guess in this one, that's kind of like a pop star skin. But like you notice, like normally she's got like a full face. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say she's fat. I'm just saying to say she's thick, right? And then like in this one, she's literally got like concave cheekbones, right? Like, you know what I mean? Am I complaining too much? I don't know. No, I'm not. Draven looks like Draven. I like it. My only complaint is why does he have white hair and then a black mustache? Honestly, I'm going to have to give the same complaint. I know the Fu Manchu that he wears is like, it's like hard to do it because it's like a very unique Draven-y look, but it's also kind of a unique Draven-y look, right? So maybe it wouldn't have looked right if you put it in this skin, but also I kind of don't like, they're kind of making him look older, like 40. And then they're giving him the, I don't know. Gnar, dude, the thing that's funny about Gnar, so little people care about Gnar that they can just use Gnar at this point to do anything. Literally just take Gnar, put him anywhere, you're fine, right? Like literally take Gnar and just make him a little like creature, it's fine. No one cares. No one even remembers what Gnar looks like. No one remembers what Gnar looks like. And so like if you were like, this is what Gnar looks like, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's definitely, because like you don't know, nobody knows what Gnar looks like, right? Prestige, Law, Illusion, Renata Glask. At least they're trying to make her look older in this skin. It's kind of weird. In this one, she has like lush, vibrant, very youthful looking hair. And then in this one, they like I think the problem is in this one, the hair is so emphasized because it's like a different color and it strikes out and it's like lit up, right? So like you notice the hair. But then this one, it's got like the same hair, but it's like it's like subtle and like pushed back, right? Like it's not the main focus. The main focus is then like on her body. I mean, obviously her body, right? Like we all get that, right? And so I think I don't hate this one as much. And plus they're kind of accentuating the features of her being like an older character. You know what I mean? Like so long as a character looks like the character, right? Like this one doesn't really look like Draven. I mean, it's Draven if Draven, I guess, grew out his hair and changed his entire look, right? Which is, This one looks like Kiana if Kiana was not Kiana and had a different facial makeup. Like if you drew me and I had like these concave cheeks, right? Would I still look like me? Yeah, technically, but you know, it's not really my face, right? I have cheekbones. I have a jawline, right? But like I don't look like this. You know what I mean? I know this is a very small complaint, but like I noticed it right away when I looked at Kiana. As for Renata Glass, yeah, that's fine. I mean, obviously it's a giga-sexualized skin. It's like giga-sexualized, right? But it's what I do like, at least with this one, is they're not like in this one. It's like they're downplaying her age so hard by basically removing it. This one keeps it. And like the thing is, look, how many sexy female characters do we have at this point, right? Like when even Kiana is starting to look more generic, right? It's like Kiana, who's got, you know, let's be blunt here, Kiana, who's got one of the more unique body types in the game, right? When even she's starting to have it like de-emphasized to play up you know, other things. Yeah, I don't know. Let's look in game. Nidalee, yeah, it looks good. Honestly, no complaints. This looks really good. This actually looks legitimately good. No complaints here. Renata Glask. Yeah, you see what I mean? It's like all of a sudden she's got the cleavage. She's got, you know, it just, I don't like it. I legitimately do not like it. Let's see what they do to, Ziggs looks stupid. I'm sorry, this looks stupid. This actually looks stupid. If I was a Ziggs player, I'd be like, oh wow, so I basically didn't get a skin, because this sucks. That's my thoughts. Kiana. Okay, so like, does this really look like Kiana? Really? 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 Like, even you people who love Kiana, does this really look like Kiana? So, okay, so now we're emphasizing her waist more, which has never really been the emphasis of the champion, right? Like, there's only so many champions you can emphasize, right? Like, we already have Nidalee's waist being emphasized here, right? Like, Nidalee's more of like a slender kind of build, right? And then we're trying to like play like what it just, I don't know. There's only so much you can do with female characters, right? Because like they're all the same species, right? Obviously, we're all human here, right? There's only so many different ways you can show a human, right? So like, I don't know. It's just like it's like they're trying to keep the thick thighs, but they're like downplaying. I don't know. It's just a face too. That's just not. I don't like it. I just don't like it. Draven. I mean, it's hard to make Draven not look like Draven because he's always going to hold his axes like that. There's only like how many characters are there that hold axes like this? Like there's only Draven, right? Even I'm talking 2 weapons. Even if you hold 2 weapons, everyone else carries them forward. Draven's the only one who does 1 back, 1 forwards, right? So like you're always going to know it's Draven because of his silhouette, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, it's fine. It's just like it doesn't look like Draven. It just actually doesn't look like Draven. I'm sorry. It like actually doesn't look like Draven. It really doesn't. Gnar. Once again, it's Gnar. No one cares. Literally nobody cares. I kind of like purple Gnar. Ooh, I kind of like this one too. Ooh, wait. I like that one. This one, I like this one a lot. That's like actually a good looking chroma right there. If I was to use Gnar, that would be a cool one. I mean, I wouldn't buy it, but okay. So we're adding a chroma to IG Fiora. The chroma obviously looks way better than the base skin, right? Chroma obviously is a massive improvement on this. Okay, so ironically, I think adding more colors made this one pop and look way better. But adding more colors to this one, I'm not actually sure made it look better. Because the thing is, Fiora doesn't really show any skin, so all you have is black, white, gray, right? Like that's the only coloring you have here. But because Kai'Sa shows off a lot of skin, there's black, white, gray, and then skin, right? So there's actually 4 colors going on here. So now, like with the Fiora skin, we went from black, white, gray to red, gold, black, white, right? It's like we went from 3 colors to 4. Large improvement. Most of the gray is removed. In fact, pretty much all the gray is removed. Yeah, so there's no gray, so it's just black, white, gold, and red, right? It's like we added an extra color here. But now we have gray as well. They kept some of the gray, right? So now we have this weird like black, gray, gold, red, skin. It's too much. It's too much. Plus, it just doesn't. It looks too much to me. I kind of like this one because it's more simple and it does what it's trying to do more, right? Like this one's just. It's like too much. It's too much for me. It's too much for me. This one's way too much. Oh my god. Okay, so it's the same problem I'm talking about. Because they're showing skin, there's already more colors going on here, right? Like, do you understand? Like, there's 4 colors already here because there's black, white, gray, and skin, right? Now we have black, white, gray, red, skin, gold. Again, 2 different types of gold, skin, more red, a different red. Like, what is going on here? Literally, okay, I was making fun of the other one, but like this one literally feels like just paint has just been thrown at a board and there's just all these colors going on. It's like a piñata LeBlanc. It's too much. Okay, so we added a chroma to High Noon Lucian. Are these like skins we need to pay $200 for? Are these $200 skins? I kind of like it. It's not bad. I mean, it's basically just using High Noon Lucian, which is like one of the best skins in the game, right? Like we're already there, right? So, I mean, it's good. I kind of would have liked if they played up the white a bit more, because the thing is, the black is played up super high here, but here the white isn't played up and doesn't even. His lower half doesn't even use white, right? Like if they recolored the red into white here and here, I think it actually would have played out much better. FPX Malphite. It's not better, it's not worse, it's a side grade at best. I would see no reason to ever use it. Poro Rider Sejuani, Tenfold Triumph. Ooh, this one's better. But it's kind of because the old model, it was so old at this point that it's kind of outdated. I definitely think this one's better just because it's updated. It looks like they added more texturing in here. You can see it on like the Poro. They added like a little bit more texturing and stuff onto it. Probably when they went back to work on it, they like worked on like making the texturing look a little bit better. I think this one's just newer, so it's just going to look better than a way older one. Then we have Obsidian Dragon Triumph. Obsidian Dragon said tenfold Triumph. Is this like a pay-to-win skin line or something? Is that what's happening here? Are these all going to be $200 skins? Okay, I don't think anyone's going to use this. For the same way, if you had a hyper-sexualized female skin that then covered her up, no one would want to use it. Here we have, you know, kind of a sexualized male skin line, and then they're like covering him up. Like covering up his shoulders, covering up his midsection. I guess it's like I don't know. It just, you know, like you wouldn't do it if you were using a female skin line that was sexualized. You wouldn't use the chroma that covered them, and I wouldn't use that one either. Soul Stealer Vein, first decennial. What does that even mean? What do these mean? What are these words? Okay, so this one's significantly better and this one's significantly better because they're newer. You can literally see it in the texturing work. The texturing on like the hair is significantly better, like significantly better. The color choices are significantly better as well. Instead of this weird like dead skin. I mean, I know what that's what they're going for. It's Soul Stealer, so they're like trying to do like a vampiric kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. But like, this one just looks better. It just looks significantly better. And it's not just like, oh my god, it's blonde, so it's hotter. Like, it's not just a blonde thing. Even the white hair one just looks significantly better. The texture work is way better. The color choices are way better. It's just better. The problem is this one's like purple, then a deep blue, which is already purple-ish, then like randomly off to brown, and then randomly a dead green. Like, it's just a bunch of colors that clash. This one is like colors that accent each other. Black, white, gold for the most part. And then some different versions of gold in there. That works, right? Like black, white, red. Okay, that works too, right? Like these work because like they're colors that go together. This one's always just been bleh. Okay. EDG Yuumi tenfold triumph. Okay, so it's eviler Yuumi. Yuumi, but even more evil. Eviler Yuumi. Evil Yuumi, or I don't know. Okay. So I don't know. EDG Zoe tenfold triumph. I think that looks worse. I actually don't like the color choices they used. I don't like it. I feel like it looks weird. Zoe doesn't look good in red. Zoe doesn't look good ever, but definitely not in red. At any rate, these colors work better because they're like a deeper. They're like a deep set of colors. They're like a dark, deep colors that work together, like blue, dark blue, brown, black, gray. These kind of work together, right? These ones don't. White, it's like they're trying to go for, what do they call it, hot and warm colors. These are warm colors that work. This is doing like hot colors, but they don't, or cool colors. Yeah, that's how they say it back in my art days. These are cool colors and they work together. These are warm colors, but they don't work together because they're adding in random black, which black does work with everything, maybe to accent it, but they're not using black to accent it or highlight it. They're using black as a main color. I think that's why I don't like it. Yeah, this has been my this has been my art history, everyone. Okay, so I've been playing Cyberpunk. If you want to watch me play Cyberpunk, I'll put my variety channel down below. I say that every time because you guys still, for some reason, don't know I have a variety channel. As for if you like supporting Hashinshin and you like Hashinshin and you say to yourself, Hashinshin, you're a great guy. I really, really wish that I could support you because you are doing amazing things for me and you are allowing me to see all the patches. Is there anything I could do, Hashinshin, to support you? Why, yes, there is. Introducing Patreon. With Patreon, you can give Hashinshin money each month. Then Hashinshin will use that money to pay rent and live. Wow. Listen to some of these Patreon supporters who say, wow, I like supporting Hashinshin on Patreon. He is a cool guy. Who are those people who support Hashinshin on Patreon? They are people that I am stalling for time to name because I am stalling for time to name them. Starting at the top, Monica, Stefan Ortman, Deep the Heretic, T the Fish, Alex Tennant, Christoph Marks, Genny Shelbert, Heros the Burb God, Pancho Rodriguez, Tenchi Kanashisa, Destroy, Sebastian, Amzarine, Ben G, Blazenrock, Creador, Daniel Fiala, Deruda, Yadgod, Fanaku, Full Yuki, Gwenmato, Henson, Hoon Arthur, Jorned Panning, Justicier, Kalfos Zeramar, Kijubai, Ludwig III, Manuel, Metal Am Morgan, Negative KDA, Noxian Scion, OMG Clover, Oz, PBNJ, Red Daddy, Scorpion, Scott Shapiro, Suki02, Terra, Uvo Plaja, Veno, Vivian, WLC League of Legends, Wolfman, and Jan. Thank you all for supporting me on Patreon. Yay! Special shout out to my Kick subscribers, YouTube members, and anyone else who supports me. Please leave a comment and a like. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.